Officer Daniel Brooks smiled when he saw the name on the driver's license. Not a friendly smile. The other kind. The kind that appeared when someone thought fate had finally handed them an opportunity. Maya Johnson, he said quietly. Then he looked up through the driver's side window and smiled again, because he knew exactly who she was. The red and blue lights painted the empty street behind her car. A cold flash, then darkness, then another flash. The clock on Maya Johnson's dashboard read 9:17 p.m. She had left the courthouse less than 20 minutes earlier. The city was beginning to settle into the quiet rhythm that arrived after sunset. Office buildings stood dark. Storefronts were closing. Traffic had thinned. It should have been an ordinary drive home. Instead, a police cruiser now sat behind her sedan. Interesting. Very interesting. Maya took a slow breath before lowering her window. As a prosecutor, she had spent years telling people to remain calm during police encounters. Now she followed her own advice. Officer Brooks approached slowly, one hand resting near his belt, the other holding a flashlight. The beam swept across the interior of the vehicle, the center console, the passenger seat, the rear seats, then finally her face. "You know why I stopped you?" Maya looked at him. "No, officer." His expression hardened. "You rolled through a stop sign." She knew she hadn't. Not even close. The intersection had been empty. She had come to a complete stop. Still, arguing on the roadside never helped anyone. So she simply nodded. "I understand." Daniel Brooks leaned slightly toward the window. The flashlight remained fixed on her face, almost intentionally, as though he wanted her uncomfortable, as though discomfort itself was part of the point. License and registration. Maya handed them over. The officer studied the documents, then studied her, then looked again. Recognition settled across his face. Interesting. Very interesting. Because now he was certain. This wasn't just any driver. This was Maya Johnson, Assistant District Prosecutor, the woman who had spent the last 2 years supporting investigations into police misconduct cases. The woman whose name regularly appeared in local news coverage. The woman many officers quietly disliked, especially officers like Daniel Brooks. "What do you do for work?" he asked. Maya already knew he knew. The question wasn't information gathering. It was something else. "I'm a prosecutor." The smile returned. Small. Sharp. "Yeah." A pause. "I thought so." The night suddenly felt colder. Not because of the weather. Because of the tone. Maya had encountered that tone before. In courtrooms. At hearings. At police union meetings. The tone of someone who had already decided what kind of person she was. And didn't like it. Daniel handed back her license, then glanced around the vehicle again. "You carrying anything illegal tonight?" The question hung in the air. "No." "You sure?" "Yes." His smile widened. "Interesting. Very interesting." Because most people became nervous under questioning. Maya didn't. She answered clearly, directly, without hesitation. That confidence irritated him. "You mind if I take a look inside the vehicle?" There it was. The real reason for the stop. Maya kept her voice calm. "Officer, is there a reason to search my car?" Daniel's expression changed instantly. Not dramatically, just enough. Enough for Maya to notice. Enough to confirm what she already suspected. This had nothing to do with the stop sign. Nothing at all. "You refusing?" "I'm asking if there's probable cause." The words landed between them like a challenge. A legal challenge. And both of them knew it. Because Maya understood the law. And Daniel understood that she understood it. Neither fact made him happy. The officer stepped back from the window. His jaw tightened. The flashing lights reflected across the side of her car. Red. Blue. Red. Blue. For several seconds he said nothing. Then he called something into his radio. Maya couldn't hear the response. Only static. Only fragments. Only enough to know backup might be coming. Interesting. Very interesting. A small knot formed in her stomach. Not fear. Instinct. The same instinct that had helped her survive years inside courtrooms. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. Daniel returned to the driver's side. This time his voice sounded different. More confident. More certain. "Step out of the vehicle." Maya stared at him. "Why?" "Step out of the vehicle." No explanation. No discussion. Just the order. The street was empty. The sidewalks deserted. Only the distant hum of traffic existed beyond the flashing lights. Maya slowly opened the door. The cool night air hit her face. She stepped onto the pavement. Officer Brooks motioned toward the rear of the vehicle. She complied, because refusing would only escalate things, and because she still believed facts mattered. That belief would soon be tested. Very severely. Daniel circled the vehicle once, then twice, examining doors, windows, tires, moving slowly, almost theatrically, as if performing for an audience that wasn't there. Maya watched quietly. The prosecutor in her mind observed everything. Every movement, every glance, every decision. Years of courtroom experience had trained her to notice details. Tiny details. The details other people missed. And one detail suddenly caught her attention. Daniel kept touching the right side of his uniform jacket. Again, and again, and again. Interesting. Very interesting. Something about it felt strange. Not enough to explain. Not yet. But enough to remember. A second patrol car arrived. 2 more officers stepped out. They exchanged brief words with Daniel, then remained near the curb, watching, waiting. The situation no longer resembled a routine traffic stop. Not even close. Maya folded her arms against the cold. What exactly is happening? Daniel ignored the question. Instead, he walked toward the passenger side of her vehicle. Then he crouched beside it. For several seconds, his body blocked her view. Maya narrowed her eyes, trying to see, trying to understand. The officer remained there. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3. Then he stood, slowly, very slowly. And when he turned around, something was in his hand. A small plastic bag. The street seemed to fall silent. Completely silent. Even the flashing lights felt distant. Daniel held the bag up between 2 fingers, like a magician revealing the final trick. His smile returned. Only now it looked victorious. Well, he looked directly at Maya, then at the other officers, then back at Maya. Looks like we've got a problem. Maya stared at the package. Her heartbeat slowed. Not accelerated. Slowed. Because shock sometimes feels like stillness. Because part of her mind refused to process what she was seeing. And because she knew exactly what was happening. The officer took a step forward. His voice calm, almost cheerful. Turn around. The words hit harder than any shout. Harder than any threat. Harder than any accusation. Maya looked him straight in the eye. For the first time all night. And in that moment, she understood something terrifying. This stop had been planned long before the flashing lights appeared behind her car. Daniel Brooks wasn't looking for evidence. He was creating it. Turn around, he repeated. The handcuffs appeared, cold steel catching the glow of the patrol lights. And as Maya slowly turned toward the police cruiser, one question echoed through her mind. Not whether she was being framed. She already knew that. The question was far worse. How many times had he done this before? The handcuffs clicked shut. One sharp sound. Metal against metal. Final. Officer Daniel Brooks tightened his grip on Maya's wrist and guided her toward the patrol car. Not roughly. Not violently. That almost made it worse. Because everything felt practiced. Routine. As if he had rehearsed this moment 100 times before. The cold night air suddenly seemed heavier. The flashing lights painted the pavement in red and blue. A small crowd had already begun forming across the street. People always stopped when they saw police activity, especially when someone was being arrested, especially when that someone looked calm. Interesting. Very interesting. Maya lowered her head as a phone appeared. Then another. And another. People were recording. Of course they were. The modern world never missed an opportunity for a spectacle. One bystander whispered something. Another pointed. A third person zoomed in with a camera. Nobody knew who she was yet. But they would soon. Very soon. Daniel opened the rear door. Watch your head. The fake politeness almost made Maya laugh. Almost. She slid into the back seat. The door slammed shut. The sound echoed inside the vehicle. For the first time all night, Maya found herself alone. At least physically. Emotionally, she was surrounded by questions. Too many questions. The largest one sat directly in front of her. How had Daniel known? The stop wasn't random. She felt certain of it. The recognition on his face had come too quickly, too naturally, as though he'd already been waiting for her. Interesting. Very interesting. The patrol car pulled away. Maya stared through the reinforced glass partition. The city lights blurred outside. She had spent years prosecuting criminal cases, years watching suspects ride in police vehicles, years explaining constitutional rights. Now she sat on the opposite side. Funny how quickly life could change. Across town, local news scanners had already picked up the arrest. Information moved fast. Rumors moved faster. By the time Maya arrived at the station, whispers had already begun. Assistant District Prosecutor arrested. drug possession, traffic stop, investigation pending. The story practically wrote itself. And Maya knew exactly what headlines would look like. Not tomorrow. Tonight. The booking process moved efficiently. Almost too efficiently. Photos. Fingerprints. Questions. Forms. Each step felt surreal. The fluorescent lights overhead hummed softly. A constant buzzing sound. Cold. Clinical. Indifferent. Maya answered every question calmly. Name. Address. Occupation. The officer entering information paused when he reached that section. Prosecutor. Maya nodded. The man looked uncomfortable. For a brief moment, genuine sympathy crossed his face. Then it disappeared. Procedure resumed. Interesting. Very interesting. Because sympathy rarely changes paperwork. Hours later, Maya finally received permission to make a phone call. The first person she contacted wasn't a family member. It wasn't a friend. It wasn't even a supervisor. It was attorney Benjamin Carter, one of the most respected defense lawyers in the city, and one of the few people she trusted completely. He answered on the second ring. Maya. His voice immediately changed. What happened? She closed her eyes, then told him everything. The stop, the search, the bag, the arrest. The silence on the other end lasted several seconds. A long silence, the kind that meant someone was thinking carefully. Finally, Benjamin spoke. Do you believe the evidence was planted? Maya didn't hesitate. Yes. Another pause. Then, are you absolutely certain? Yes. Interesting. Very interesting. Benjamin knew Maya well. She wasn't emotional. She wasn't reckless. And she never made accusations lightly. If she said she was certain, she was certain. I'll be there in 30 minutes. The call ended. For the first time since the arrest, Maya felt a tiny sense of relief. Tiny, but real. Unfortunately, the rest of the city wasn't feeling relief. The city was feeling curiosity. By midnight, social media had exploded. Images spread everywhere. Photos from the roadside. Screenshots from live streams. Speculation. Assumptions. Judgments. Thousands of them. Some people defended her. Many didn't. Most simply enjoyed the drama. Interesting. Very interesting. Because scandal attracts attention faster than truth ever will. The following morning proved even worse. Maya barely slept. Every television screen seemed determined to remind her. Every website carried some version of the story. Every radio station discussed it. The same photograph appeared everywhere. Maya Johnson, handcuffed, escorted by police. No explanation attached. No context. Just an image. And images are dangerous. Because people often believe them before they understand them. At 9 o'clock sharp, the district attorney's office issued a statement. Pending investigation. Administrative leave. No further comment. Professional. Predictable. Devastating. Years of work. Years of reputation. Years of credibility. All suddenly hanging by a thread. Interesting. Very interesting. Benjamin arrived at her house shortly after noon. He carried a briefcase, several folders, and the expression of a man who already knew things were about to get worse before they got better. He sat across from Maya at the kitchen table. Neither spoke immediately. Rain tapped softly against the windows. The house felt unusually quiet. Benjamin finally opened a folder. The prosecution will move quickly. I know. They think the evidence is solid. I know. Benjamin nodded, then leaned forward. Tell me everything again. So she did. Every detail. Every movement. Every word. Nothing omitted. Nothing exaggerated. Benjamin listened carefully, especially when she described Daniel crouching beside the passenger side of the vehicle, especially when she mentioned his hand repeatedly touching the right side of his jacket. Interesting. Very interesting. When she finished, Benjamin remained silent, thinking, analyzing, looking for something. Then Maya suddenly froze. Completely froze. A memory surfaced. Small. Forgotten. Until now. Her eyes widened. Benjamin noticed immediately. What is it? Maya stood so quickly that her chair nearly tipped over. She walked toward a hallway closet, opened the door, dug through several boxes, then stopped. Her hands were shaking. Not from fear. From realization. Please tell me. Benjamin watched. Confused. What? Maya pulled out a small black case. A very small case. The kind most people wouldn't notice. The kind easy to overlook. Inside sat a compact personal body camera. Benjamin stared, then stared harder. Interesting. Very interesting. Because suddenly the room felt different. Hope had entered. Small hope. Fragile hope, but hope nonetheless. Maya looked down at the device, trying to remember, trying to be certain. 3 days earlier, she had been evaluating personal recording equipment for witness interview documentation, testing models, comparing features, recording quality, battery life. She had worn one home, just once, just to test it. And then, her heartbeat accelerated. Fast, very fast, because she remembered something important, very important. The camera had still been attached inside her jacket the night she was arrested. Benjamin slowly stood. Neither spoke. Neither wanted to say it too soon. Neither wanted disappointment. Finally he asked, "Did it record?" Maya looked at the camera, then at him, then back at the camera. A small green indicator light blinked. Once, twice, 3 times. The memory card was still inside, and somewhere on that card might be the truth. The green light kept blinking. Once, twice, 3 times. Neither Maya nor Benjamin moved. For several seconds, they simply stared at the tiny camera sitting on the kitchen table. Interesting, very interesting, because less than 24 hours earlier, Maya had felt completely powerless. Now, for the first time since her arrest, there was a possibility. A small one, but a possibility nonetheless. Benjamin carefully picked up the device. "Let's not celebrate yet." Maya nodded. He was right. A recording existing wasn't the same thing as a recording helping. The battery could have died. The angle could have been blocked. The footage could have been corrupted. Hope was dangerous when facts were still unknown. Benjamin removed the memory card, inserted it into his laptop. The screen illuminated. A folder appeared, then another, then a video file, nearly 3 hours long. Neither spoke. The rain continued tapping against the windows. The room suddenly felt smaller. The air felt heavier. Benjamin clicked play. The footage began. At first, nothing seemed remarkable. Maya leaving the courthouse, walking through the parking garage, driving home. Normal. Completely normal. Minutes passed. Then the flashing lights appeared behind her vehicle. Maya leaned forward. Benjamin did the same. The traffic stop had begun. Interesting. Very interesting. The body cam angle wasn't perfect. It sat inside her jacket near her lapel. But the audio was crystal clear. Every word, every question, every response. The conversation played exactly as Maya remembered. Daniel's tone, his attitude, his questions. Nothing surprising. Not yet. Benjamin fast-forwarded slightly. The search request, the order to exit the vehicle, the arrival of the second patrol car. Still nothing decisive. Still nothing enough to save her career. Then Daniel walked toward the passenger side. And everything changed. Benjamin immediately paused the video. Both stared at the frozen frame. Neither spoke. Neither needed to. Because for the first time, they had something. Not proof, but something. Play it again. Benjamin obeyed. This time slower. Frame by frame. Daniel approached the passenger side of the vehicle. His hand moved toward the right side of his jacket. Exactly where Maya remembered seeing it repeatedly during the stop. Interesting. Very interesting. The footage continued. Daniel crouched. The body cam angle shifted slightly. Just enough. Just enough to reveal what happened next. Benjamin stopped breathing. Maya did too. Because Daniel's hand emerged holding something. A small package. A package that absolutely had not come from Maya's vehicle. The footage wasn't blurry. It wasn't questionable. It wasn't ambiguous. It was clear. Very clear. Daniel reached downward. His hand disappeared briefly beneath the frame. Then reappeared empty. Seconds later, he stood up, holding the same package. The package he would later claim to have discovered. Silence filled the room. Complete silence. Benjamin replayed the sequence again. Then again. Then again. 5 times. 6 times. 7. Every viewing produced the same conclusion. Officer Daniel Brooks hadn't found evidence. He had introduced it. Maya slowly sat back in her chair. For the first time since the arrest, emotion broke through her composure. Not relief. Not happiness. Anger. Cold anger. The controlled kind. The dangerous kind. Because she now knew what had happened. And more importantly, she could prove it. Benjamin finally spoke. Maya. His voice sounded different. Almost stunned. This may save you. May. Not well. May. The lawyer in him remained cautious. The prosecutor and Maya understood why. Because truth alone wasn't always enough. Truth needed witnesses. Truth needed procedure. Truth needed people willing to acknowledge it. And that was where things could become complicated. Very complicated. Benjamin immediately made copies. 3 copies, then 5, then uploaded encrypted backups. By the time he finished, the footage existed in multiple locations. If anything happened to one copy, others would survive. Interesting. Very interesting. Because Benjamin clearly didn't trust what might happen next. Neither did Maya. The following morning, Benjamin requested a meeting with Internal Affairs, the department responsible for investigating officer misconduct. The appointment was granted surprisingly quickly, perhaps because of Maya's position, perhaps because of media attention, perhaps because someone inside the department already suspected problems. Whatever the reason, they found themselves entering police headquarters less than 48 hours after the arrest. The building felt different this time. Colder, more hostile. Maya noticed officers watching her. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked irritated. A few looked nervous. Very nervous. Interesting. Very interesting. Because rumors travel fast inside police departments too. The meeting room contained only one investigator, Lieutenant Rebecca Torres, 20 years on the force, highly respected, known for being fair, known for being difficult to influence, which made her exactly the person Maya hoped to see. Unfortunately, Torres looked unconvinced. At least initially. She listened carefully, took notes, asked questions, then asked more questions. By the end of the first hour, her expression remained unchanged. Professional, neutral, distant. Maya, she finally said, do you understand the seriousness of accusing a police officer of planting evidence? Maya met her gaze. Yes. And you're certain? Yes. Torres nodded slowly, then looked toward Benjamin. What exactly do you have? Benjamin opened his laptop. The room suddenly became very quiet. Interesting. Very interesting. Because everyone understood this moment mattered. The video began playing. No speeches. No dramatic introductions. Just evidence. Pure evidence. Torres watched carefully. Her expression never changed. Not once. Not during the first minute. Not during the second. Not during the third. Then the crucial moment arrived. Daniel approached the passenger side. His hand moved toward his jacket. The package appeared. The package disappeared. The package reappeared. The same sequence. The same horrifying sequence. Only this time viewed by someone trained to recognize misconduct. Torres leaned closer. Then closer still. The video ended. Nobody spoke. 5 seconds passed. 10. 15. Finally, Torres replayed the segment herself. Then again. Then one final time. When she looked up, her face had changed. Completely changed. The skepticism was gone. The neutrality was gone. In their place sat something else. Concern. Real concern. Interesting. Very interesting. Because Maya recognized that look. It was the look investigators wore when they realized the case was much bigger than they originally believed. Torres slowly closed the laptop, then folded her hands. For several moments, she seemed to be choosing her words carefully. Very carefully. Finally she spoke, and the sentence that left her mouth sent a chill through the room. If this footage is authentic. She paused. We may have a very serious problem inside this department. For the first time since the handcuffs closed around her wrists, Maya realized something. Daniel Brooks should be afraid. Because the truth was no longer hiding, and Internal Affairs had just started looking for it. The investigation began quietly. At first. Very quietly. No press conferences. No public statements. No dramatic announcements. Just doors closing inside police headquarters. Just investigators reviewing reports. Just uncomfortable questions being asked behind the scenes. Interesting. Very interesting. Because scandals rarely explode immediately. First they smolder. Then they spread. Then suddenly everyone realizes the fire was much bigger than they thought. 3 days after Internal Affairs received the footage, Maya's phone rang. The caller ID displayed a name she didn't recognize. She answered. Hello. A nervous male voice responded. I think Officer Brooks did the same thing to me. Silence. Complete silence. Maya sat upright. Her heart immediately accelerated. Fast. Very fast. Because she knew exactly what those words might mean. The man introduced himself as Marcus Reed, 28 years old, former warehouse worker, arrested 2 years earlier during a traffic stop. Drug possession. Exactly the same charge. Interesting. Very interesting. The similarities became disturbing almost immediately. The stop, the search, the discovery, the arrest. Every detail sounded painfully familiar. I told everyone he planted it. The man's voice trembled. But nobody believed me. Maya closed her eyes. Because she had heard those exact words before. Only now she understood them differently. Before, they had been allegations. Now they sounded like warnings. And perhaps, confessions from victims nobody had listened to. The call lasted nearly an hour. When it ended, Benjamin immediately contacted Internal Affairs. Marcus wasn't the last person to come forward. Not even close. The second call arrived the following day. Then another. Then another. Interesting. Very interesting. Because once people realize someone is finally listening, they start talking. One man claimed evidence appeared after an unexplained vehicle search. A woman described a suspicious arrest during a roadside stop. Another individual reported inconsistencies in an official police report. Not every story could be verified, but the pattern was becoming impossible to ignore. And Internal Affairs knew it. Lieutenant Rebecca Torres certainly knew it. The woman who had initially approached Maya's complaint with skepticism now seemed to be moving at full speed. Every new witness increased the pressure. Every new statement raised new questions. Most importantly, every new allegation pointed toward the same officer, Daniel Brooks. Meanwhile, Daniel continued reporting for duty, at least temporarily, but something had changed. People noticed. Interesting. Very interesting. Because confidence leaves clues when it disappears. The officer who once walked through the station like he owned the building suddenly appeared tense. Distracted. Irritable. Officers noticed him checking his phone constantly. Supervisors noticed his unusual behavior. Even casual conversations became awkward. Rumors traveled through the department faster than official memos. And everyone had heard about the footage. Everyone. Some believed Daniel was innocent. Others weren't so sure. A few already believed he was finished. Daniel himself seemed caught somewhere in between. The official hearing was scheduled for the following week. The city learned about it almost immediately. News stations flooded the story. Social media exploded. Again, only this time the headlines looked very different. Questions replaced accusations. Evidence replaced rumors. Public opinion began shifting. Interesting. Very interesting. Because people who had judged Maya instantly were now discovering the story wasn't as simple as they thought. Many refused to admit they had been wrong. Others quietly changed their position. A few openly apologized. Maya noticed all of it. But she didn't celebrate. Not yet. She had spent her career inside courtrooms. She knew one lesson better than most people. Cases aren't won when evidence appears. They're won when evidence survives scrutiny. And scrutiny was coming. Very soon. The hearing room was packed. Far more crowded than anyone expected. Journalists filled the back rows. City officials occupied several seats. Police supervisors lined one wall. Lawyers occupied the other. Even before proceedings began, tension filled the room. Heavy tension. The kind people feel when they know careers are about to change forever. Interesting. Very interesting. Because everyone present understood what was truly at stake. This wasn't only about Maya. It wasn't only about Daniel. It was about trust. Public trust. Institutional trust. Trust in a system that only functions when people believe it deserves confidence. Daniel entered with his attorney. He looked different. Older somehow. Not physically. Emotionally. The confidence Maya had seen during the traffic stop seemed diminished. Not gone. Just weakened. He avoided looking toward her. That alone told Maya something. Interesting. Very interesting. Because innocent people usually want eye contact. People carrying secrets often don't. The proceedings began. Witnesses testified. Reports were reviewed. Statements were examined. Hours passed. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. The footage. The room became silent. Completely silent. Even reporters stopped typing. The video appeared on a large screen. Daniel's face remained expressionless. At first, the recording began. The traffic stop. The conversation. The search. The commands. Then the critical sequence appeared. Again, and again, and again, frame by frame. The investigators enlarged the footage. Slowed it down. Highlighted movements. Highlighted timing. Highlighted the object emerging from Daniel's jacket. Interesting. Very interesting. Because what had once seemed like an accusation now looked increasingly like documentation. The room watched. Nobody interrupted. Nobody joked. Nobody whispered. Even Daniel's attorney appeared uncomfortable. The video ended. Then started again. One final time. This time nobody focused on Maya. Nobody focused on the reporters. Nobody focused on the audience. Every eye remained fixed on Daniel Brooks. The silence afterward felt enormous. Lieutenant Torres spoke first. Her voice calm, professional, measured, but impossible to ignore. The evidence raises serious concerns regarding the legitimacy of the arrest. Serious concerns. A carefully chosen phrase. Yet everyone understood its meaning. Very clearly. Then something unexpected happened. A man seated near the rear of the room stood up. No one recognized him immediately. Not until he introduced himself. Marcus Reed, the warehouse worker who had called Maya. His voice shook slightly, but he continued speaking. I told people the same thing 2 years ago. The room turned toward him. I said evidence had been planted. A pause. No one believed me. Silence. Again. Interesting. Very interesting. Because suddenly this hearing wasn't only about one traffic stop. It wasn't only about one victim. It wasn't only about one officer. It was about every person whose voice had been ignored before proof finally appeared. For the first time since the investigation began, Daniel Brooks looked afraid. Truly afraid. And Maya realized something. The footage hadn't simply exposed a lie. It had opened a door. And behind that door were years of questions waiting to be answered. The questions didn't stop after the hearing. They multiplied. Interesting. Very interesting. Because once people begin looking for the truth, they often discover much more than they expected. Within days, Internal Affairs expanded its investigation, then expanded it again. Old arrest reports were reviewed. Body cam footage was re-examined. Evidence logs were audited. Traffic stops were scrutinized. Every file connected to Daniel Brooks suddenly mattered. And the deeper investigators looked, the worse things became. For Daniel, for the department, for everyone who had ignored warning signs. Lieutenant Rebecca Torres personally supervised much of the review. The more she uncovered, the less comfortable she became. Patterns emerged. Repeated patterns. The kind investigators hate finding. Because patterns suggest intent. And intent changes everything. Interesting. Very interesting. Several arrests linked to Daniel showed unusual inconsistencies. Missing details. Conflicting timelines. Questionable searches. Witness statements that had never been fully explored. Individually, none proved misconduct. Together, they painted a troubling picture. A very troubling picture. Meanwhile, public pressure continued growing. News stations covered the story every night. Editorials demanded accountability. Community leaders requested answers. People who had never heard Maya Johnson's name before now followed every development. But Maya remained quiet. Very quiet. No interviews. No public speeches. No victory laps. Benjamin noticed. You could go on television tomorrow. Maya shook her head. No. Why not? She stared out the window. Because the answer mattered. Because this was never about becoming famous. Interesting. Very interesting. Most people in her position would have embraced the spotlight. Maya wanted something different. She wanted the truth. Nothing more. Nothing less. 3 weeks after the hearing, the official findings were completed. The city waited. The media waited. Maya waited. Even Daniel Brooks waited. Though waiting looked different when your future was hanging by a thread. The announcement came on a gray Thursday afternoon. The same courthouse where Maya had built her career now hosted one of the most important press conferences in recent memory. Reporters packed the room. Cameras lined the walls. Every seat was occupied. Lieutenant Torres stepped forward first. The room fell silent. Completely silent. She summarized the investigation carefully, professionally, methodically. Then she delivered the conclusion. The evidence supported findings of serious misconduct. The arrest of Maya Johnson had been determined to be illegitimate. The criminal charges were dismissed. Immediately. Interesting. Very interesting. Because for one brief moment, nobody reacted. The room simply absorbed the words. Then chaos erupted. Questions. Shouting. Camera flashes. Reporters racing to file stories. People speaking over one another. Yet Maya barely heard any of it. She sat quietly, breathing, just breathing, because she remembered another room, another day, another moment, the booking station, the fingerprints, the headlines, the humiliation. And now, that chapter was finally ending. But the story wasn't finished. Not yet. Several weeks later, criminal charges were filed against Daniel Brooks. The former officer arrived at court through a side entrance. Gone was the confidence Maya remembered from the roadside. Gone was the smirk. Gone was the certainty. Interesting. Very interesting. because power often feels permanent, until it isn't. The proceedings moved forward. Evidence was presented. Witnesses testified. Investigators explained their findings. And the footage, the same tiny body cam recording almost forgotten inside a closet, remained at the center of everything. A small camera, a small memory card, a small decision made days before the traffic stop. Funny how history sometimes turns on the smallest details. Months later, the verdict arrived. Daniel Brooks was found guilty of multiple offenses related to misconduct and evidence tampering. The courtroom remained quiet as the decision was read. Maya felt no joy, no celebration, no satisfaction, only something quieter. Relief. Deep relief. Because justice and revenge are not the same thing. Many people confuse them. Maya never did. Interesting. Very interesting. The conviction triggered additional reviews. Several older cases were reopened. Some convictions were re-examined. Individuals who had spent years carrying unanswered questions finally received another chance to be heard. Among them was Marcus Reed, the warehouse worker who had called Maya, the man nobody had believed. One afternoon, he met Maya outside the courthouse. Neither spoke immediately. They simply stood there. Two people connected by an injustice neither had chosen. Finally, Marcus smiled. A small smile. The kind built from years of waiting. You know what the strangest part is? Maya looked at him. What? Marcus laughed softly. For the first time in years. I feel like somebody listened. The words stayed with her. Long after he left. Long after the cameras disappeared. Long after the headlines moved on. Because maybe that was the real victory. Not the verdict. Not the investigation. Not the publicity. Being heard. At the end of the year, Maya returned to work. Same courthouse. Same office. Same desk. Yet everything felt different. Colleagues greeted her warmly. Some apologized. Others simply smiled. The district attorney personally welcomed her back. Her reputation had survived. But more importantly, her integrity had survived. Late one evening, after everyone else had gone home, Maya sat alone in her office. The city lights glowed beyond the window. Quiet. Steady. Peaceful. She opened a drawer. Inside rested the body cam. The same device that had nearly been forgotten. The same device that had preserved the truth. Interesting. Very interesting. Maya picked it up, turned it over in her hands, then smiled. Not because she had won, because she had learned something. Truth doesn't always arrive immediately. Sometimes it arrives late. Sometimes it arrives bruised. Sometimes it arrives after everyone has already chosen sides. But if it survives long enough, it eventually finds its voice. Maya placed the camera back into the drawer, then switched off the office light. As she walked toward the elevator, the hallway fell quiet behind her. And for the first time since those flashing lights appeared in her rearview mirror, she finally felt free. Because Daniel Brooks believed a badge could hide the truth. But the truth had been recording the entire time. And in the end, justice didn't need to shout. It simply pressed play.